My family cut me off when I refused a career in medicine. "You're throwing your life away," my sister laughed. But when I won an Emmy for my screenplay about their hypocrisy. I was raised in a family where your last name was practically followed by MD as a birthright. The Riveras were known in our part of San Antonio. My dad was a cardiologist. My mom ran her own OB/GYN clinic. Our family friends were surgeons, specialists, and professors of medicine. Dinner conversations were about patient load, new procedures, and who had just published a paper in The Lancet. I'm the youngest of 3 girls. Bianca, the eldest, is a neurologist. Cold, direct, accomplished. Serena, the middle child, was quieter, the peacekeeper. She followed the plan too, Johns Hopkins for med school, just like Dad wanted. Then there was me, Leona, the one who wanted to write. It wasn't some whimsical, fleeting idea. I had been obsessed with stories since I was a kid. When other children played house, I wrote little plays for them to act out. I devoured screenplays I printed from sketchy forums. I watched films like people studied textbooks, rewinding, taking notes. I knew what I wanted. I knew it down to my bones. So, when college came around, and I told my family I was applying to NYU's Tisch School for screenwriting, you'd think I announced I had joined a crime syndicate. My mother just stared at me, mouth slightly open. My father took off his glasses and said, "You're 18. You're not thinking clearly." Bianca laughed. Serena blinked fast, the way she does when she's holding an emotion. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just repeated it, calm and clear. I wasn't going to med school. I wanted to write. And I was going to New York. Within a week, my parents stopped speaking to me. They didn't drive me to the airport. I left with 2 suitcases, a scholarship, and $800 in savings. Serena slipped me a note before I left that just said, "I hope you find what you're looking for." I still have it. New York was the most cruel, beautiful place I'd ever been. I shared a 5th-floor walk-up with 4 other students. I ate a lot of rice and canned beans. I waited tables and cleaned apartments on weekends. I cried in public a lot more than I care to admit. But I also wrote like my life depended on it. Because it did. My classmates were brilliant. My professors were tough. And yet, I always felt like I had something they didn't, something to prove. Every scene I wrote, every character I created, came from a part of me that still stung from the rejection of the people I loved most. My best friend Isa, a theater major from Seattle who would later become my roommate, used to read my drafts and say, "Damn, girl. Who hurt you?" And I'd just smile and say, "You don't want to know." By my final year, I had written 5 screenplays. One of them, the most personal of all, was a thinly veiled retelling of my own family, white coats and empty chairs. A story about a girl who leaves behind a family of doctors to pursue her dream, and the silence that follows. When I submitted it to the Austin Film Festival, I didn't expect much. I'd been rejected more times than I could count. But then, I got in. As a finalist. That one festival changed everything. An indie director saw the script and asked to option it. I nearly fainted. Then HBO got involved. They were doing a new series centered on family dramas and intergenerational trauma, and apparently, mine fit the bill perfectly. When they told me they wanted me on the writing team, I ugly cried for an hour. I never told my family. Why would I? The series launched 2 years later. White Coats and Empty Chairs became an underground hit, not viral, not flashy, but real. Critics called it achingly intimate and a cruel mirror to high-achieving immigrant families. I was invited to the Emmys the following year. I brought Isa as my date. We wore rented gowns. We drank champagne like it was water. And then, we won. I stood on stage, holding this absurdly heavy gold statue, and said something I hadn't planned at all. "This is for anyone who's ever had to choose between their dream and their family, and chose themselves." The next morning, everything changed. My phone buzzed nonstop. reporters, producers, former classmates. And then, Serena. Her message was simple: I watched all 6 episodes. I didn't realize how much I missed you until now. I'm so sorry, Leona. I cried. Then came Bianca's email. Short. I see. Nice show. Hope it was worth it. And finally, my mother. I didn't answer the first call. Or the second. But the third one came with a voicemail. Her voice cracked. Leona. I saw your show. I didn't know you were hurting that badly. I wish we'd listened. Please call me. I haven't called her back yet. Serena and I have been emailing. She's no longer in medicine, actually. She teaches at a community college now and says she finally feels free. Bianca hasn't softened. Not even a little. Apparently, she told a mutual friend I'd monetized our family trauma for Hollywood. My dad hasn't reached out at all. But a journalist who interviewed him mentioned that he keeps a copy of my Emmy win article in his office drawer. It's surreal. They ignored me. Cut me off. Told me I was a disgrace. And now? Now they want back in. I'm proud of the life I built. I'm proud of the art I made. But part of me still aches for the version of my mom who used to tuck me in and read me bedtime stories. For the version of Serena who gave me that note. Even for the version of Bianca who was once just my big sister, before the sharpness and pride. So here I am. 31 years old. Emmy-winning screenwriter. Daughter of 2 doctors who never thought she'd make it. Sister to one woman who now supports me and one who may never forgive me for succeeding on my own terms. And I'm sitting here, staring at my phone, wondering if I should finally call my mother back. I didn't answer right away. I told myself I was too busy: meetings, deadlines, development deals. But the truth was simpler. I didn't know what I wanted from her. An apology? An explanation? Maybe I was afraid of opening that door and finding out she hadn't changed, that none of them had. But Serena kept messaging. Sometimes just little things: a picture of a pie she baked, a meme about being the middle child, a link to a lecture on storytelling and science. She was trying. Carefully. Gently. Like approaching a wounded animal. One night, I cracked and replied. A simple, I miss you too. That opened the floodgates. We started messaging every few days. She told me she hadn't enjoyed med school, not really. That she stayed in it as long as she did because she felt like someone had to keep the peace. When she quit, our parents were disappointed, but nothing like how they'd reacted to me. You softened the blow, she said. You took the brunt so I could slide out quietly. I didn't know how to feel about that. It was comforting, but also deeply sad. She invited me to visit Houston, just her, no family ambush, she promised. I didn't commit, but I didn't say no. In the meantime, the series was renewed. A second season was greenlit, and HBO gave me more creative control. They wanted me to direct an episode. I should have been elated. Instead, I felt like I was floating, like none of it was fully real. And then my mom emailed. Subject line: just wanted to say thank you. Inside was a short message: I watched the finale again. I cried harder the second time. I don't know how I missed how unhappy you were. I thought we were helping you succeed. I didn't realize we were crushing you. I'm so sorry, Leona. I'm proud of you. I love you. I hope someday we can talk in person. Love, Mom. I read it 4 times. I didn't reply. Not because I was angry. But because I wasn't sure if I was ready to be her daughter again. Weeks passed. I started therapy, real, consistent therapy. My therapist, Devin, was the first person who made me feel like I didn't need to pick a side between my art and my past. There's no rule that says forgiveness has to happen in one dramatic scene, he said. You can pace yourself. I started keeping a journal. Writing down things I never let myself say out loud. I wanted my mom to hold me when I got my first rejection. I wanted my dad to tell me he believed in me even if I wasn't a doctor. I wanted Bianca to stop laughing at my dreams. I wanted to feel like more than the family disappointment. During this time, Serena invited me again. I made space in the guest room. Just say the word. So one weekend in October, I flew to Houston. She met me at the airport with sunflowers, my favorite. We hugged for a long time. Her place was cozy, nothing like the sterile perfection of our parents' house. She had candles, throw blankets, little plants that leaned toward the windows. We ordered Indian takeout and stayed up until 2 a.m. talking. And when I asked about our mom, she didn't push. Just said, she's been trying in her own way. Still doesn't really know how to say things out loud, but she watches the show every Sunday. I think she's trying to understand you through it. I didn't know how to respond to that. The next morning, as I was pouring coffee in Serena's kitchen, I saw my mother's name pop up on my phone. Just one word, lunch? Serena must have seen my face because she said nothing, just placed a hand on my shoulder and squeezed. I didn't answer. But I didn't delete it either. I stayed in Houston for 3 days. We went to bookstores, took a pottery class, watched cheesy rom-coms from the 90s. It was healing in small, quiet ways. One night, we were walking back from a cafe when Serena said, "Bianca saw the show, you know." I stopped. "She told you?" "She didn't have to. I saw her name on the screen when it streamed. She watched all of it. And? She hasn't said anything. But, she's different. She's softer. I don't know if she'll ever say sorry, but I think maybe she's thinking about it." I didn't know whether to feel relief or rage. Maybe both. Back in LA, I returned to work, writer's rooms, table reads, editing notes. Life moved forward, but that little blinking message from my mom stayed in my phone. I opened it sometimes, reread it. Lunch? I kept thinking about that word, so ordinary, so unspectacular. It wasn't "I miss you" or "I was wrong" or "please forgive me." Just lunch? But maybe that was the point. Maybe she didn't know how to bridge the canyon, so she offered something small. Familiar. A first step. I didn't reply. Not yet. But I kept writing. And every time I wrote a scene about mothers and daughters who misunderstood each other, I found myself making their reconciliation just a little closer. 3 weeks after I returned from Houston, I was in the middle of a location scout in Pasadena when I saw another message from my mom. No subject line this time. "I know you're busy. I just wanted to say, the second season, the 4th episode broke me. You wrote about the mother who gave her child a plan instead of a voice. That was me, wasn't it? I didn't know. I didn't know until I saw it. I'm sorry. I hope someday I can say it to your face." I sat in the van with my location manager talking about light angles, nodding along, but I didn't hear a word. My mother's words rang in my chest like a bell. I hadn't written the episode about her specifically, at least not intentionally. But it was about women like her. Women who wanted so badly to protect their children from failure that they never noticed they were the source of the pain. I never replied. Not yet. But the email didn't feel like a trap. It didn't have that old guilt-dripping tone. There was no mention of disappointment, or expectations, or how families stick together. It was just, her. Raw, finally. In therapy, I read the email aloud. Devin said, "She's not asking you to fix it. She's acknowledging her part." That's a big deal. I knew he was right. Still, some old reflex in me stayed stiff. After all, this was the same woman who told me I'd ruin my life, the same woman who once said, "Writing is for people who can afford to waste time." And now she was quoting my own script back at me. I didn't trust it. But for the first time, I didn't totally doubt it either. Around that same time, I got invited to a panel at UT Austin, Writers in Film and Television. I was the keynote. I said yes, mostly because it felt poetic to come back to Texas this way. Full circle. I told Serena, and she offered to drive up and attend. I said yes. Then she said, Mom asked if she could come too. Just to watch. No pressure. I froze at the message. Serena followed up, you don't have to answer now. Just think about it. I thought about it for a week. When the panel date rolled around, I landed in Austin the night before and checked into the hotel. It was warm, the kind of Texas heat that clings to your neck even in spring. I walked down South Congress, past the same murals I'd seen in college photos years ago. The city had changed, but something about it felt frozen in place too. The next morning, as I was getting mic'd up backstage, my stomach twisted with something I hadn't felt in years: fear. Not stage fright. But something deeper. The feeling of being seen by the people who never really saw you before. I texted Serena, is she here? Seconds later, yes. Sitting quietly in the third row. Wearing blue. My fingers trembled. I tucked the phone into my bag and walked onto the stage. I didn't scan the audience. I didn't let myself look. I spoke for 20 minutes about storytelling and survival, about how art had saved me. I answered questions about writing personal stories and how to balance truth with fiction. I made a few jokes. People laughed. At the end, someone asked what the most surprising thing was about writing white coats and empty chairs. And I said that telling the truth can be both the most terrifying and the most healing thing you'll ever do. That sometimes, the people you thought you'd lost come back, but in different forms. If you're lucky, maybe better forms. I felt the weight of those words hang in the room like fog. When the applause ended, people came up to say hello, ask questions, shake hands. I smiled, I nodded, I took pictures. But I still hadn't looked for her. It was Serena who approached me last. She gave me a quiet hug, then said she didn't want to come backstage. She said she didn't want to intrude. I nodded. I felt my throat tighten. She asked me to give you this, Serena added, handing me a small envelope. My name was written on it in my mother's handwriting, careful, slanted, still familiar after all these years. I didn't open it right away. I tucked it in my notebook. Later, in the hotel room, I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at it for a long time before finally breaking the seal. Inside was a handwritten letter. Leona, I can't imagine what it took for you to write what you wrote, not just the show, but every page of your life after you left. I used to think that love meant protecting you from everything, even yourself. I see now that it just meant I was scared. You weren't a failure. You were brave. I don't expect forgiveness. But I want you to know I am trying. I will keep trying. Not because of the show, not because you're successful, but because you're my daughter, and I want to earn a place in your life again, if you'll let me. Love, Mom. I sat with the letter in my lap for almost an hour. The room was silent except for the occasional car on the street below. I didn't cry. I just felt still. Like something inside me had settled, not resolved, but no longer spiraling. The next day, before my flight back to LA, I texted Serena, can you send me her number? She responded instantly. No questions. I saved the number. Stared at it. I didn't call. Not yet. But I didn't delete it either. I kept her number in my phone for 2 more months before I called. It was a Thursday afternoon in LA. I was walking Marbles, my rescue mutt who hated scooters and loved avocado, and the air smelled like orange blossoms and exhaust. I pulled out my phone and stared at the name, Mom. I hit call. She answered on the second ring. Her voice was careful, like she wasn't sure if it was real. Leona? I said nothing for a moment. Just breathed. Then, you were right. I was brave. A pause. Then I heard her exhale like she'd been holding her breath for a decade. I'm so proud of you, she whispered. It wasn't perfect. But it was enough to start. Over the next few months, we talked a few times. Slowly. Sometimes awkwardly. I didn't rush to visit, and she didn't ask me to. Serena acted like a soft bridge between us, dropping updates to each side, like a diplomatic envoy. Then came the invite I never expected, the Rivera Foundation Gala. My parents had started the nonprofit a decade ago, scholarships for underprivileged kids pursuing medical careers. It was their legacy, the shiny pedestal on which they perched their respectability. Every year, it was black tie, high profile, full of speeches and carefully curated press photos. The invite came from my father's assistant. Not even him. A printed card in the mail. The Rivera Foundation cordially invites you to our annual gala, honoring excellence in education and impact in healthcare. I laughed when I opened it. I thought it was a mistake. Then Serena texted me, "You should come. Just once. If nothing else, to see their faces." I almost didn't go. But then I realized, this could be my revenge. Not through cruelty. Not through confrontation. But through presence. Through the kind of success they could no longer deny. The daughter they disowned, now a cultural force. So I went. I wore a sleek, navy dress, the kind that looks effortless but is quietly expensive. ISA helped style me. My name was on the press list, not because I asked, but because the press asked to see me. HBO had just signed me to direct a feature. When I walked into the ballroom at the W Hotel in downtown San Antonio, it felt like a fever dream. All those old faces, family friends, distant cousins, former professors. People who'd once said, "So what are you doing now, sweetie," with that faux polite pity. Now they stared. Now they approached. Now they said things like, "Your show was powerful. My daughter loved it, she cried watching the finale. I didn't know screenwriting could be such a real career. What a gift you have." My parents were across the room, standing near the stage. My mother looked at me like she didn't know whether to hug me or bow. My father gave a nod, a sharp, short nod, like that was all the emotion he could manage. That was fine. I didn't need more. I mingled. I drank champagne. I let them see what they'd tried to erase. When the keynote speaker finished, the MC introduced the night's surprise guest. Apparently, the board wanted to honor a creative force who has redefined what it means to educate through storytelling. I hadn't agreed to speak. But I had agreed to stand. Just once. To accept it. So I did. As I stepped up to the stage, I caught Bianca's eye. She had shown up after all. Still perfectly dressed, still expressionless, but she couldn't look away. I stood at the podium, trophy in hand, and smiled. 10 years ago, I left San Antonio with 2 suitcases and a dream none of you believed in. I was told I was wasting my life. That I'd be back, broken. Instead, I wrote a story about that very rejection. And the world didn't laugh at me. They listened. Tonight, I accept this honor not as a doctor, not as a prodigy, but as the Rivera you left behind, and the one who made it anyway. To all the kids out there who are told their dreams are too small, too soft, too unworthy, keep going. One day, you'll be the one standing at the mic. The room was quiet. Then came the applause. I walked off the stage and never looked back. A week later, I received a package in the mail. Inside was a copy of my high school yearbook. My mother had bookmarked a page. My senior quote, "Someday I'll write something that matters." She had written underneath it, in pen, "You did. You do. You always will." I closed the book. I didn't cry. I just smiled.